Hello, I'm Sheila, and I'll start by giving a brief overview of our project. For this project, our goal was to create an AI-assisted academic tool to clarify assignments and organize coursework, with our current work focusing on establishing the Canvas integration as the initial functional components.
Hi, this is Honey. The problem our platform addresses is that many students struggle to understand complicated assignments and managing their academic workload, since having a lot of classes comes with heavy material. This is important because students often get confused, stressed out, or spend too much time on a singular problem, which happens to the most of us, honestly. Our platform solves this by providing an AI assistant that breaks down assignments into clear, understandable summaries and supports students with ongoing questions as they work through. Also, a personalized workspace with all your coursework and past conversations saved, so everything you need is in one place and students are always allowed to come back and continue. The intended users are students who need a little bit more guidance throughout their academic years. So the main idea is to take stress out of assignments, keep students organized, and help them pass any roadblocks so they can keep going without worrying.
Hello, I'm Taylor. I'll be going over the requirements and tech stack. For the requirements and system design, we wanted to build a study tool that actually understands the work you're doing. Functionally, the core feature is context-aware chat. Instead of one big chat window, the system creates specific conversations for specific assignments. You can click on a task, see the details, and ask the AI for help right there. We also required the system to list and prioritize assignments to help students manage their time. On the non-functional side, security was our main concern. Since we are connecting to the school Canvas API, we have to securely handle and encrypt the user's API token to access their grades and courses. For our tech stack, we went with a modern setup. For the front end, we use Next.js with React 19 for a fast, responsive dashboard. For the back end, we built the API with Node and Express, written in TypeScript to keep the code clean and bug-free. And deployment, finally, we wrap the whole thing, including the database in Docker, so it runs consistently on everyone's machine. This is our architecture diagram. We used SQLite or SQLite for the database and SQL to handle the relationships. You can follow the data flow from left to right. On the far left is the user. This table holds the authentication info and that encrypted Canvas token I mentioned before. The user connects to courses and courses connects to assignments. We mirrored the actual Canvas structure here so we can store data locally. This means the dashboard loads much faster since we don't have to wait on the external Canvas API for every single page refresh. The bottom section handles AI interactions. The most important part here is the chat conversation table. You can see it links the user directly to the assignment, or to an assignment rather. That link is what allows the AI to know exactly which homework problem you are talking about. We also have tables for messages and upload documents, so if a student uploads a PDF rubric, it gets tied to that specific conversation context.
All right, here's our demonstration. If I navigate to the dashboard, it will prompt me to log in. And I'm just gonna log in with a test account that I have. And this is registered with my Canvas API token. So these are my classes. If I click on one of them, I can view the homepage. And this is all the stuff that I would have access to if I was using Canvas normally. So if I go to the modules view, this is the same stuff that's on Canvas. But if I go back to assignments, I'll show you, I can click on one of them and see the description, see all the information about it. And I can actually create a chat that is specific to this assignment. So here's a previous chat. If I go to the new one, see it's empty, I can send a message and it'll be saved and I can get a response. Finally, of course, I can always log out.
This is Taylor. My responsibilities were project milestone management, sprint, retrospective documentation, and team coordination and communication. Technical work was the CI/CD automation, prettier formatting checks, code quality infrastructure, and the biggest challenge I faced was I have a cybersecurity background, and this was more akin to a web dev project.
For individual contributions, I'll start by talking about my responsibilities. So as the lead developer, it was my job to set up the project and finalize our stack. I was also responsible for managing pull requests on GitHub. As for technical work, I started by working on Docker. So I wrote our 3 Docker files for the front end, back end, and Nginx, as well as our Docker Compose file. Once that was working well, I moved on to authentication. I implemented JSON web tokens, unit tests, validation, made sure all that worked well, and I also set up the front end forms for logging in and registering. After that was set up, I moved on to conversations. So inserting new conversations into the database, inserting new messages, creating front-end routes, endpoints, things like that to make that all work together. As for a challenge I faced, I had an issue with our initial Docker setup. So my initial plan was to static build the front end and serve it using Nginx. But unfortunately, a Next.js feature that we started using required a full node server to be running. So I had to rewrite all of that. And that definitely took a lot of time, not to mention I didn't initially understand what was going on, so I had to do a lot of research to figure it out. Unfortunately, Tyler is not here, so I'll just briefly discuss his individual contributions. His main responsibility was working with data, so his technical work included fetching from the Canvas API and inserting that into our database. He wrote comprehensive unit tests and integration tests for this process. He also worked on the front end, creating all of the Canvas-associated routes, including the dashboard, assignments page, modules, and so on.
For this project, I had a few main responsibilities. A big part of my work was the styling and layout design for this platform. I focused a lot on the homepage, dashboard, and the navigation, making sure everything looked clean, consistent, easy for users to navigate. This included updating the CSS and the TSX files to enhance the layout and making the interface look cleaner and more appealing. With that, I also updated the README. One of the challenges that I faced throughout this was the dashboard grid layout, since the number of courses could change depending on the student and their semester. So the grid would sometimes look misaligned or looked uneven with the courses. To fix this, I used the set min and max sizes for the grid elements so the layout would stay balanced no matter how many courses were showing up. Overall, this experience allowed me to balance design and technical work, tackling layout challenges, and creating a smoother and more organized user interface.
My responsibilities included styling and layout design for the course page, the conversation page, and the register page. I worked on making the structure clean, readable, and user-friendly so that when the AI and workspace features are fully implemented, the interface already feels smooth and intuitive. On the technical side, I updated the README for clarity, created and edited multiple CSS and TSX files to shape the layout, and added the TypeScript models for both assignments and conversations. These models will support how information flows through the platform later on. One of the main challenges I ran into was layout and alignment issues. Buttons were different sizes, some text was wrapping incorrectly, and spacing across components weren't consistent. On top of that, the robot fingers for the conversation page were especially tricky to position. They kept shifting out of place no matter how many times I adjusted the styling. I solved these problems through repeated testing and adjusting CSS properties, things like container sizing, flex behavior, and alignment rules, until everything displayed correctly across the different pages. For future improvements, there are several major features that we would have liked to add. First, completing the AI chat box integration so students can ask questions and get assignment summaries directly in the website. Next, building out the full assignment workspace so users can view, organize, and interact with their coursework in one place. We also would want to refine the UI for consistency across all pages and make the visual design more polished. Additional features like file upload would make the platform even more useful. And finally, establishing clearer team roles and project timelines earlier in development would have helped streamline our workflow in future iterations. Overall, our current progress lays the foundation for a tool that can genuinely support students academically.